going on this piece of America. But now what's on this pamphlet here that's not on that map? Flip it around there so you can see.
Let's see that.
The angle that they have. What's on that pamphlet that's not on that map? The fort. They took the side of the fort. They went out of their way. This is proof of a lie, of a conspiracy. Because why would they take it out if it's of no significance?
Praise y'all. We thank y'all for allowing us to come together and have this time to actually share. We got a great guest coming to help share some of the information that he learned as he went to Israel. So we thought it was great for him to have on the show to go through some of the information, to share his experience. So we'd like to introduce Arieh Daud Israel. All right. And could you just tell a couple of things, a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, just so people can understand, who you are and so forth?
Sure. Again, first of all, thanks for having me, Brother Yesher, to edify, to do whatever part I can to help edify the body of Mashiach. So I appreciate it. Yeah, so my name is Arieh Daud. I am a servant, devout servant of the Most High Yah. Some say Yahuwah. I say that as well. And I'm married. I have two boys. You will see in the slides, have two boys, been married for about 16 years to my wife. And she is a devout follower as well of the Most High, And we're trying to, with the knowledge that we've learned, especially from channels like yours and over time, the knowledge that we've learned, we're trying to raise a household and do as we've been commanded to have children and teach them the Most High Yah ways as well.
All right.
If you want to hear about anything more than that, the profession, all of that.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead and give it.
Just briefly. So my degree is in information systems. I went to the University of Texas, and along the way over the years, I've also, prior to that, I was in the military. I'm what they call a military veteran, and I have a story to tell in that regard. And during the military, I fought in combat deployments, and Israel was one of the places, that's over 30 years ago now, one of the places that I happened to fight, Tel Aviv, Haifa area. So full circle, learning who I am and coming back to that, it's been really intriguing. Looked at the Most High, and I just say, man, his wisdom to bring this thing full circle, because at that time I thought the people were there in Israel, who was over there protected the people of the book. It turns out many years later, turned out we're the people of the book. So it was very enlightening. So that was one of the most ironic things that happened in my life, and have things play out before you, and it's hard to believe. But so that's pretty much about me. So I wanted to just bring that part in, because that was very intriguing in all of this, how this all played out.
Yeah, that's important too. Now I just thought about it, because you said that was in the 90s.
It's in the 90s.
So like the Ethiopian Jews got there like in the 80s, right? So that was still kind of fresh during that time. So I'm just putting all this together, even we're learning about it, I'm putting pieces together. So that's interesting. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And how
5 or 6 years.
6 years?
About 5 or 6 years, right? 80.
Right.
I think that was Operation Moses, Operation Shlomo. Yeah. It's about 5 or 6 years before, 6, 7 years before I actually landed in land. Yeah.
Wow. Because we just showed that video just this Shabbat, about how they landed to Israel and start getting, assimilated into the society there. So, wow. Wow. Because they were talking about all the other pictures were years ago, and it was in black and white. But if you notice that this these pictures were in color. So that shows you how, you know,
The
how
progression
recent,
of time.
right, that they just moved over there and stuff. So wow, wow. So how did you find out that we were the people of Israel? And, you know, what were some of the sources you were able to use? And, you know, what about that side of your history?
Great. So, brothers, I gotta say, it's been a lot, and as far as I can recall, I can definitely point out one video at that time, and I can give you generally what was it called, but it was called "The Hidden Identity of Blacks in the Bible." This guy placed it out. I don't remember the guy's name per se, but he put that out, and it was a guy that was bringing resources, right? Actually, primary, secondary sources to prove. It's interesting, but that was I got it on my Facebook page, one of the very first videos. When I saw that, I'm like, wait a minute, right? Everything before that was been like speculation, maybe in your mind, but that sticks out as one of the catalysts for me that started to say, wait a minute, because you know, first time you hear it, you know, not deep brain, you're like, probably, but maybe not. You know, it's doubt, because you don't have facts, you don't have data. And when I saw that video, that was when the catalyst that got the old mechanisms churning in my head. I'm like, okay, let me look further into this. And obviously, the Most High Spirit took over from that point and just started to show me. So as far as sources, it was a lot of YouTube. So I consumed a lot of the YouTube stuff at that time, even before I started doing you as well, even before I started doing the research. So then, you know, you're still not confident. You hear it, but then when you start doing the research, so things like I did a DNA study years ago. I want to say it was 23andMe. It hold the whole E1B1A thing before they changed it, because that's changed now. It's EP something, but it's not.
Yeah, mine too. Yep. Same thing here. Yeah, wow. Wow.
So that E1B1. So I was able to get it at that time. It's amazing how the Most High moves you through this. And so that was one of the things that started to cement, hey, okay, could we be onto something here? So the E1B1A, which they changed, and history of slavery, you know, in general, we go through grade school and we learn about slavery. So that ties into Deuteronomy 28. And I think that was a big piece of it as well, the Bible. That was probably the primary piece, and it was able to tie that in. And it's like Cochran and the O.J. Simpson tried to say, that don't fit, you must have quit. That glove fit the hand of Israel perfectly. So once you start learning that, and there's also, I would say this lastly, things that they would say, you know, the so-called people, Jewish people would say, like some of their work, Shlomo saying with the invention of the Jewish people, his book, I read some of that. Benjamin Friedman, you know, you looked at some of his recordings, a guy, so-called Jewish man was able to speak that these people were converts. And then there was Arthur Kessler, some of the stuff in the ephemeral world of Hebrew Israelism, when we were learning that those things, those books, Rudolph Windsor, and you know what I'm talking, Babylon and Timbuktu. Yeah, so I was reading these sources, and those were the things that started to say irrefutable, showing proof. So those were some of the sources that outside, and once I got outside the media, it's kind of tickling my fancy with who we could be the people. Then I started doing some research, slight research, nothing, but those were the things that even some of their sources were saying, hey, these are Khazarian converts, that type of thing.
Okay. Yeah. And what was it might be multiple things, but what was the thing that says, this is for sure, this is how I know I'm gonna start walking in it type of thing?
It's a great question. I want to say with the Bible, I want to say Deuteronomy 28, Leviticus 26, and start to see. And once I started to see ourselves in the Bible, it, like I said, that was the primary piece for me. But then that video, Hidden Identity of Blacks, I looked at this thing and I was just trying to go and look at some of these sources, some of the Bible, things like that. And I started to say, oh, so I got to say the Bible was I started reading it more, right? Because there's in other things as well prior to that, searching for truth. Right? But when I read it, it's like the Spirit, I want to say maybe the Spirit of the Most High to come over you and say, even though I'm a rational left-brain person, it starts to say, you probably want to look into this. And then Most High was just leading me the whole time. Hey, go get your DNA. Hey, go learn about this. So I would say, Brother Yeshua, that was kind of the Bible's the primary piece. But then a lot of the stuff out on social media, a lot of the books that have been written as well. But the thing that really I was reading about was Deuteronomy 28. That was the thing that I was first like, never paid attention to it before. And then you start saying those curses and say, oh, so that was the impetus. But then and the other stuff will follow. But that was the primary impetus. I really paid attention to it for the first time.
You look at it totally different now, I'm sure, like me. I was like, how did I miss that? Like
That's exactly. That's exactly.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh. So how did your family respond, to it when you start walking in it? You don't have to say no names. Don't want to get you in trouble. Don't have to say no names.
Yo, man, I can go to names. Like, I would say probably my mom. She was going. I think at the time when I was coming into this, 2015 is around that time, late 2015. My mom was having a health issue, and so I was able to immerse her. So love my mom. She believed me what I was saying. So right there in my sister's home. And I was trying to get my other family members, hey, you need to be re-baptized, re-immersed, but in the name of Yahushua, not the JES, right? So my mom, right there in the bathtub, I did it. She believed. But brother, with the rest, yeah, it's been we are. That's about the extent of it, right? But as far as the males, so I really tried, my dad and my, other family brothers. No, it's to this day, you think somebody come and ask you questions later, but to this day, no, it's just something deaf ears. So
yeah, it's a challenge. Yeah. That's why I always say, even with me, it took me, one of the young adults, he was in the camp actually, and he challenged me, and I was like, and similar. It took me 3 years to come around. So, gotta plant the seed, and sometimes it's the right person, somebody else will make it grow, but we just gotta be patient. So that's good. And how did you come across the Memleket Kohanim? And just let everybody know, we were up there, we were talking about Israel, and we saw somebody was tweeting about, I've been there, and we were like, oh, what? We got excited. So how did you come across the channel?
Indeed, that was you and I in the chat, because I was like, oh, how sure. But it was just I happened to be scanning. It was a Shabbat, I want to say, and I just happened to, we don't believe in coincidences. So here's this channel. I'm like, a channel with an interesting name, and I just happened to look at some of your videos. That video that day, and it was the thing that pulled me in was scholarship. How I saw the research thing was very well researched. Videos, everything was just put together. And I'm always apt for learning. So that's how I came across, subscribed, and it's been interesting. It's been interesting, and I love the scholarship that comes from the channel. Again, it was just happened to run across it. And I'm always more of a teaching aspect. And that's what you do. It's more of a teaching aspect. And that is what drew me in. But again, it's a scholarship that is continued and very well research that you do. So that's that. And here I am. And then the whole chat thing, yes.
Oh yeah. So I don't know much about the social media and how to, make your numbers go out and algorithms. So I just go up there and start going. My wife, she, helps out, and that's how we do it. So we just kind of as the Ruach, pull it into people at the right time and stuff. So that's just wonderful to hear that. And what about the Hebrew Israelites over in Israel? We know that you had some time over there in the military. So how did you go across, coming across some of them and having the interest to go speak with them?
Indeed. So what, if any in the earlier years and watching YouTube videos, you would not have come across videos, I believe, Hashua, right? And in time you learn about this group from Chicago that went over in Israel back in, I want to say 60s. The Ben Ami, I want to say, who's now the late Ben Ami, most high blessed. But that's how I learned about this group, right? And I'm just like, oh, wow. And I'd been over there, 20 years prior in a military conflict. And so my whole thing was like, hey, I'd like to go over there. I was telling my wife I'd like to go over there again. And it was a point of just getting into contact. And Brother Yasha, the way it happened was, it was just me reaching out to somebody in a video, maybe in the comments, I don't recall exactly. That had to have been the way, maybe an email, I'm not sure, but it wasn't verbal. So I was able to reach out to somebody that knew one of these guys, happened to be Hashua Mariel, in this group that immigrated to Israel back in the 60s. And he connected me with, I want to say, his email, and I was able to email him. And just like that, I was like, oh, I'm coming. That kind of cemented my travel plans. I was like, I'm going to just do it just because I want to go visit. this brother as well to see it. But my main interest was visiting him in that. And the brother was very hospitable and accommodating. And that's how it all, just from that, reaching out to someone else knew him and contacted me with him. And then I was planning a trip to go over there, and we was able to carve out some time to go see one. I think they defected since, but a group of those guys that went over there in the 60s.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We know about the Demona ones, and then there was another group. I didn't realize there was that many groups out. There was more. I thought it was just one, but I heard it was like 3 or 4 different groups out that went. So I was like, oh wow, there's more history there than people know. So
Yeah.
now, do you speak any Hebrew or any kind of Yiddish or anything like that?
Not fluently. The Hebrew I speak is things I pick up every now and then,
Oh, okay.
being in this truth to this point. That's all. That's it, brother. Yes, sure. But I'm learning. Modern Hebrew is what I'm now. And I have I have the motivation more so now, because when I study the Bible, I like to know one of the teachers I have, Mores, in our congregation that I fellowship with, is trying to go back to the source text. So you got to go and know the Hebrew and even the Greek to try to understand the Bible in a Hebraic, more of a Hebraic bibliology is what we call it, more Hebraic sense. So that's my motivation to keep me, because before I got, Rosetta Stone, a lot of software for the past 20 years or so, saying I got to learn Hebrew. But now I have really motivation to do it because I really want to understand our word, our Bible, our Constitution. So I'm trying to get back to that and trying to learn some of the source language so that I can properly exegete some of the things within the Bible and get out of that Christian or Western thinking, that doctrine has been so cast upon us since the second century.
Yeah, the same way. I'm just going down that search. I took a couple of classes here and there and stuff, and especially when I was a Christian, trying to be a Christian minister, I have all this software and stuff that I never used, never touched. So all these Bibles that I can't read. So I just told my wife, I said, I need to learn some Hebrew. We do a little more of the paleo, but trying to.
Ancient.
Yeah, because some of the you probably saw them over there. Some of the artifacts actually around Tel Arad was in the paleo, so that's the reason why we're trying to learn some of that too. So yeah, I just was wondering if you knew any of it, because when you went over there, were you able to talk with the people or understand the language, or had somebody to kind of help you as you went along, or how does that work out?
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, it's definitely interesting because the people over there, because they're so closely tied to Americans, right? They speak a lot of English, right? So, and you can see some of the signs. I think we have some of those in the pics where they're having an English, Arabic, and obviously Hebrew. So, but it's just speaking. Most of them, surprisingly, actually, they learn that as a second language, right? So from primary school, Israeli, the state of Israel, their citizens learn English as a second language. And I guess it's not so much in the rural areas, but if you're in the more urban areas, Tel Aviv, you learn it. So with me communicating at that time, no. Like I said, I knew some spot words here and there. And when I was a military soldier, I would say things, and learning it sort of fanciful at that time. But no, it's obviously they like when you come to a native country and try and learn their language, but when you make an attempt, that puts a smile on people's face. But I couldn't speak it, so I just spoke English. And so you'll get along fine there, but obviously learning it would be more in depth. But you can get along. I didn't really communicate with those. Now we probably get in that question. One of the questions, the person's place we rented, she was a Jewish woman, an Israeli, and she come down and converse with us with the Airbnb that we rented the flat. It was some flat in Jerusalem. She come down and converse with us. So she spoke English very well, right? And I was just telling about the historic time, me there fighting. So it was a very cordial conversation. But no, you can get along fine just knowing English for the most part.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, because sometimes there's a guy. I think his name is Ask. Well, the video YouTube is Ask where he goes around Israel and asking different people different questions. And sometimes he's talking to people who speak English, and sometimes, it's Arabic sometimes. So I didn't know how that, some of them speaking Yiddish. So I didn't know how that worked over there, if it's that easy or common. So that's good to know. So if I ever go, I don't feel like, I can't navigate around as well. All right.
Somebody would probably know English and help you out,
We'll
indeed.
be
So
able to help you out.
it's not a mandate. Yeah.
You don't need a guide to take you through. You can kind of navigate. Okay, that's
Exactly.
good to know. And how did the local people treat you? Because I hear, especially with people of color, Black people, Africans, I hear some stories that go
Yeah.
extreme both ways. And I hear about, if you're a tourist, you're treated one way versus, so did you encounter anything like that over there?
It's a great question. What's peculiar to that question you ask is when we first got to the country, getting to Ben Gurion Airport, and we landed, one of the first things Brother yesterday asked us immediately in the airport was, "What is your purpose for visiting?" It's back in 2018. So we were asked, "What's your purpose for visiting?" And we was like, "Oh, we just here vacationing." My husband served in the military, fought here at that time, about 30 years ago, 27 years ago at that time. But they did ask us, "What's the purpose of visiting? And where are you planning on going?" So we were asked questions. It's like right when you get off the plane. And what's interesting, so when we were there, I rented a vehicle and I drove around in a small little car. But and then surveillance must be, because of the heightened state there, the surveillance must be pretty crazy, because they knew, and I learned this because we pulled over. We were coming from Tel Arad back to, I want to say, Jerusalem. Because we went through, and I pulled over because one of my kids had to really go, and pulled over. Man, just like that, here comes the Israeli police pulling up in the traffic, just pulling. I'm like, oh, it makes you think. I wonder if when we got off the plane, we were being surveillance, because I hear about the MI6, the Israeli secret military. I wonder if they knew, being in the car, they could just know exactly where we are, because they got some really superior intelligence over there because of the state and the heightened state of warfare that they're constantly in. So that was interesting to me on that drive back, because right when we pulled up, it's just like out of nowhere, a car came up right behind us. But they were nice, they were cordial. He just blew, and he knew, hey, kid probably had an emergency, had to get down off in the ravine there where high weeds were to, release himself a bit. But it was just one of those things that made me think, man, that surveillance must be pretty. But they did ask us what's the purpose for our visit and who we were there to visit. So that was interesting. But outside of that, we had a pretty good interesting. I got lost when I first got there, and it was a guy. He was a native. The guy was from Armenia. He was native from there, and so he took his time, got in the car with us, my wife and I, my two kids, complete strangers, because we were trying to find the Airbnb that we were staying at. Guy took all that time to help us find it, and once we found it, Brother Yasher, I say, man, it was so nice of you. So we invited the guy to come over. He came over, brought a thing of wine.
Wow.
He came in like a gift.
Everything.
Yeah, and I was like, we should be helping you. No, he brought it, and we met his wife and him, and they took us around. I think we went to the Tel Aviv beach, and they showed us a few more spots there. So, man, the experience was great, but there was that whole thing getting off the plane that kind of heightened me. I'm like, but I think people naturally just want to get along well, but at the same time, the powers that be don't want that, and so I think it's natural for us to want to help each other. So that's when my experience was pretty good. And again, the one we went to flat from, she was coming down. She wanted to talk all the time. We just like, hey, okay, we want some privacy now. Can you leave now? And she finally left. But it was a pretty good experience.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, because you hear about stuff like Ethiopian Jews and Bedouins and all the stuff. So that's good to hear, that you came and got a good experience from there. So did you actually meet any of the Afro-Israelis, Black Ethiopian Jews, or any Afro-Palestinians, Bedouins, or anything like that?
That's a great question. We did see you saw Black, people there. And I know that one night when my wife and I went out, we did it was an Ethiopian Jew served us. He was a guy, a male. He served us, and I made it my point. I wanted to talk to him, and obviously he was working, But I made it my point. I'm like, oh man, this is what we read about. At least I was reading about this stuff. And it's like, he's here working. But I made sure to tip him quite well, right? Because we wanted to make sure, I'm looking out. I'm like looking out for my
Uh-huh.
people. So I gave him I recall giving him a pretty hefty tip. But aside of interacting with them, no, because it's just so much going on. But I would see them, and I don't know what ethnic, but I'll just assume I know when I see the Ethiopian, I'm like, oh, that's Ethiopian Jews. And I would tell my wife, these are the people that were, we knew the actual house of Israel. I would tell her some of the history, which she knew, but it was just fascinating to see those. But as for some of the ethnic groups, it was hard to tell, but you did see the darker and the black, and we'll say the Jews there. We saw that. We did see that. And then we went to Tel Arad. You will see it, right? Some of the Palestinians, they even darker. You know that they're not Israelis, right? Because black skin like Europeans, but you see them, it's like, oh, these are native Palestinian. So you can tell by some of them. But I was looking for, some of the, black, the black original Arab, some of them. I didn't see them, probably wasn't in the areas that they would be, but I saw a lot of Beta Israel, what they call Beta Israel. I think that's kind of derogatory, but I saw a lot of Ethiopian Jews there.
Yeah, I heard they went in the Negev area, the desert area. That's where they put, they sent a lot of the people, different minorities down there. So
black Arabs, the face, the ancient face of Israel, those lands.
Okay, because even in Tel Aviv, I heard they had like the Sudanese from the refugees and stuff. Did you see them sleeping on the street or anything like? That's the pictures that they show. You didn't show. Okay, they always want to show the worst where you're not from the country. So that's why I just wondered.
No, it was very dirty. Tel Aviv is very dirty.
Oh, okay.
How you see living in America, you can see the difference. It's a market difference. It's like, man, it's a little tough. You can say it's a little harder life, even though is Israel, right? But we didn't see homeless, but we saw a lot of dirt in the street, because back when I was there in the 90s, there was a lot of Scud missiles coming over, bombing a lot of the areas in Tel Aviv and Haifa, which is the port city just north. There was a lot of Scud missile debris hitting those cities, so a lot of that stuff was rebuilt. But it was pretty dirty. It's like any big city, I think. San Francisco municipality, pretty dirty. But it didn't take away from the beauty. It was still, if you hadn't seen it before, it's very, very different. So it's still pretty nice to see, though.
Okay.
Especially Jerusalem.
That's good to know. Yes, because you never really see certain parts of what they show. Most time for Israel on the TV, they're just going to show like the tourist stuff. You don't really see outside unless you watch one of those YouTube channel ones that they walk around and show you stuff. Other than that, All right, so I know you have some pictures and stuff for us, but just some generalized questions about it, so everybody can kind of understand once we show them what they're looking at. So, how did you come across with Hashua, Arieh, and your experience with him? I know you said he was nice. I even talked to him. I think he's a great guy. The time that he talked with me, so he's just like he is. Sounds like when I see him on YouTube,
Sure
same attitude, same talking and everything. So.
It was a pleasure, brother. Yes, it was very hospitable guy. This is how it happened. After I initially communicated with him, I think I downloaded WhatsApp at that time, and I just sent a message, say, "Hey, we're in Jerusalem." Woke up that early that morning and said, "We're on our way down," and the brother responded, "Come on down." And I want to say the drive, it was quite a drive from Jerusalem to Tel Arad, where he was. Right when we got there, just as expected, he lived some area there in Tel Arad. We drove, pulled up, and he was just willing to take us in and show us. It was a group, another guy, and an older gentleman and a younger girl that was there as well. So it happened to be my family and I, and these other two people from, I think she was from Canada, and he was saying he was retiring, going to live there from that point. So they happened to be there as well. So Hashua took all of us. We sat down, ate some pizza, I think at one of the local pizzerias there in Tel Arad. And we was off to see, for him to show us the Tel Arad National Park and the data that he was showing that this is the real Jerusalem, whatever. But man, it was like your uncle or someone you know. He was that hospitable, like you always knew him. Just like you said, he's the same person
Mm-hmm.
on camera when you see him eccentric like that, and he's the exact
He's the
same
same
person.
person. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that about him when I
Same
talk to
exact
him like that.
person.
So yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully with all the war stuff, it'd be hard for me to go over there now, but hopefully,
Oh yeah.
And what was some of the stuff that he shared? What's that stood out for you? I know there's a lot that he shares. He has just so much information, but anything that really stood out to you, like, oh wow, that kind of like, wow, this is great information that other people might never hear.
Indeed. The thing that sticks out was we will see it in some of the maybe in the slides, we see it. But he had the data to prove, and I can't recall how he related, but I think it was Jebusite versus the Amorite, the two different say so the Jerusalem, he was trying to show the Jerusalem that the world knows is Jerusalem, that was not the actual Jerusalem. In biblical times, I think the way he explained it, and I hope I'm getting this right. I don't want to screw up what he's showing, but he was showing us there in Tel Arad National Park by the architectural that was left there, some of the citadel, some of the David when David defeated. So he was showing us these things, and that's what his whole point. So that's the whole reason I went down to meet him and him to show what I was saying in some of the videos. He was saying, that's the Jebusite or Amorite Jerusalem, and this is the real Jerusalem. So that was the most interesting thing. And he was just laying it out, his data, just showing some of the things, how he come to that conclusion. So that was really, really interesting. And then years later, Brother Yes, you learn that a lot of Israelites saying that the holy places in Africa, South Africa. So it's like, could be, because we've been lied to about so much. So my mind is always open. Say, I did all that to make, did I really go to the place? But nonetheless, Northeast Africa, it was, you just summarize it as, hey, I know the Most High is waking a lot of us up, and the information just overloading. But it may be some truth to what he said. I can't say I agree with it or not. I have to have proof, more or less. But that was the thing that was stood out, Brother Yesha, how he was just trying to show, brother was showing that how, hey, this is the Jebusite versus Amorite or vice versa. So that was the most interesting. And he would even show the showbread. He was showing us all the pits. So, and we know that Wailing Wall, what they call the Western Wall, that's not the actual Fort Antonia that Yahushua was talking about in Matthew 24, that would be torn down. We know that's not in the old city. They call it Old City Jerusalem. We know that's not the place, but that's obviously it's replica. So it may go along with what he was saying. So it was the most interesting thing to learn that, wait a minute, you're saying there's another Jerusalem that's the actual Jerusalem versus the one the world knows is Jerusalem. He was saying, yeah, these are two different. So that was the thing that he was trying to really show.
Okay, yeah, because that's how I kind of found him, because I was looking up Jerusalem, and I think it was a Euro American kind of person that actually showed like they were trying to say it wasn't where it is on the Temple Mount, like you're saying, with the Wailing Wall. They were trying to say it was in the old city of David. So that was the first time I ever heard anything like that. So I said, let me start researching this more. And I had a book, and it said something about Tel Arad. So I was like, what is this? And then first thing I put up was him. And I was like, what is this? He started talking. I was like, I didn't even know there's two Jerusalems in the Bible. So I had to go back and look. I was like, there's two Bethlehems. Like, what is this all
Same
about?
here.
Yeah, so it really like opened my mind and opened my eyes. And then when I saw this, all the artifacts that they found that was in Paleo Hebrew and all that stuff that was around that, and I was like, wow, this is something like, why don't the world know this type of stuff? So, once again, it's good to have some of our own people there going to it, as well as teaching it, from a different point of view that we won't usually get. So appreciate you coming over here and giving us some of this information as well from your experiences. But just in general, I know we're going to go through some of the places, but just list off some of the places that you actually visited other than just Tel Arad when you went over there.
Sure. So Tel Arad was one of the main ones on my point. I was also wanting to go to the area I was formerly there as a military serviceman. So that was Haifa, which is a port city just north of Tel Aviv. So I went to Haifa. And it's what's funny, brother. Yes, I didn't recognize any of it. I know that I was on, they were saying a he or Mount Carmel. That's what they were saying. So it's like, Mount Carmel. I couldn't find that. I'm like, this place has changed. It has been 27 years. So a lot of that had changed. I couldn't find, went up there, was kind of disappointed because I was looking for where I was stationed. So they got all the housing development, I'm told, in that area now. And because the port city is raised, so you can see all the town, up raised above you where the port is, and then everything goes up. It's like a hill. So I went there to see that. So I went to Haifa, went to Tel Aviv, went to Jerusalem. Very beautiful city Jerusalem is, because of the architecture, the stone, and it looks ancient, right? Being Northeast Africa is very ancient. So, and then we went to Tel Arad. Wanted to see Masada, and also, but we didn't. Man, we were there for like 14 days. Man, you get really travel torn after like 14 days. At least we were, especially with children, traveling with children.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the main areas: Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Tel Arad. Haifa. Went to Netanya, but that's on the way to Haifa.
Now, what's Netanya? I never heard of that.
I went to Nazareth as well. That was one of my highlights. Netanya is just a city just north of Tel Aviv, right there on the Mediterranean. It was just a nice, looked like a middle class development area.
No, like historical kind of. It's just yeah,
like nothing historical. Nazareth, I wanted to say that was a highlight. We also went to, we sent the pictures. I'm forgetting some of this stuff. The Beatitudes. So we went to the Dead Sea, went to the Beatitudes. We went to the Red Sea, and Capernaum. Drove through that, right? Because I was the kind that says, I don't do travel agents or travel tourists because the reason is I'm gonna pay you to lie. So I'm off the beaten path all the time. It's former reconnaissance guy in the military. So we just did our own thing and went to the old city with these old Christian Coptic, old city of David. That's what I would say as well. Probably that's some of that in the pictures. We'll see that. Some of the, because the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jewish people, they all, it's kind of like a fight or have historical ties to that, our land, I want to say, but there's historical ties and a lot of political Temple Mount and all that stuff going on. So those are we hit the main areas of interest, but like I said, we wanted to do a lot, which is a lot further south, and also Bethlehem, but we didn't get to do some of those. I think we drove through Bethlehem, but unlike Nazareth, I wanted to go to where they say the ghetto, where Yahshua was. We was able to see that and drive through that a bit, but those are the highlights of it.
Oh, sound like you drove all through the Bible. We went through all through the Bible.
We tried to, man. We tried.
I always feel how I feel when I'm standing on like the Bible stuff. Like, but you can share your experience. But I'm like, if I'm there, like that's sticking up the Bible, I'm like, wow, like I'm here in the Bible, like standing where they.
That's why we're reading it, and you're like, we'll stop and we'll just pull over and we'll say Capernaum. Okay, let's go and find it in the Bible, do a word search. This is what Yahshua did. This the Beatitudes we did. Yeah, so that's what's. We were trying to line some of that up, and definitely had to go to what they call the ghetto, which was Nazareth, where he grew up. Obviously, it doesn't look like it looked, obviously, in days of antiquity, but it was just a point, like you said, of being there, standing in the very spot. In Sodom and Gomorrah, we actually saw the salt, the way they saying this, where it burned. It's near the Dead Sea where it burned, and this is supposed to be the city that used to be. Interesting because it looked like it was something come down on it, but now a little bit more mature, I don't think that's the case. But at that time, it looks somewhat like, oh wow, it's not big enough, it's just look at it, it's just like a mound and it's like stuff from what I recall. But yeah, it was interesting.
That makes me think, because I remember there was Ron White. You ever heard of him? Ron White? No. Yeah, he was the one that actually went around and found all these different places like the Red Sea crossing and found chariot wheels and bones in the water. And he said he found Sodom and Gomorrah and took some of the sulfur and tried to test it and about burned up the whole machine. And I don't know if those are the same places, but it's hard to connect all that when you're remote.
Yeah, because we read the sign with the sulfur. Ron White. Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, look him up. Ron White. He has a Wyatt Museum over in Tennessee, where the other guy, Richard Reeves, he's the one that Ron White passed, but he passed it on to Richard Reeves, and he talks about us being not us per se, but he talks about like a lot of the European paganism that, and he's a Euro American, what I'm saying. He's talking about European paganism that came with the Bible and infiltrated and stuff, and he has the museum. It's interesting from his point of view, but that made me think about that when you were talking about that as well. So And just last question before we jump into the slides and see some of the pictures. What was anything the most discouraging thing that you saw while you were there? Or if it's anything, did you see anything kind of like, wow, that kind of made you double think, like, wow, this is kind of discouraging? Anything like that?
Yeah, I would say when we were seeing in the picture, brother, yesterday, it was like how the difference in the lifestyles of, say, the oppression and stuff, just kind of like so-called blacks experience here, how they're part of town that they call, how they got it marked off Palestine versus Israel. Just man, some of the buildings when we crossed over into go to the old Coptic Christian churches for the historical purpose, some of the areas we crossed into, man, look like bombs that hit a lot of these places. They're still standing, and these people are still, going into these Palestinians, still going in these places, but it looks like a war zone. I mean, we know what the ghettos look like here, but man, it is something that you just be aghast with there, So you see, we know what the ghettos look like here, but man, it's a whole different level the way.
Oh wow!
Those areas, and nobody, you can't ignore when you see that the difference. Now, it ain't like it's in Israel. It's kind of third worldish, a bit, to be frank. But they kind of build up some of the areas. But I would say, man, that was discouraging just to see how market of a difference between the two, right? The area they just marked off and call it Palestine and Israel there, and the areas that the Israelis. It just reminds you of the apartheid, discrimination, oppression that we've experienced here per se, and how what they're experiencing there. It's a market difference. And then even how the Israeli government, how secular they are, it showed me that too, because you tend to think it's a holy city. Right when we got in this, Brother Joshua, right when we got in the city, it was a pride parade, LGBTQ thing going on. And I remember telling my wife, we was in the mall, and I'm like, what is going on? We run out, we walked outside, and there's a pride parade. I think and learned later that that's one of the areas where they hold one of the largest pride gay fests in the world.
I heard about it. Oh, wow. You're right in the middle of it.
We happened to come upon when that was going on. So you see how secular these people live, and even the Hasidic and Haredi and Halani, the Dadi, all these other Orthodox Jews, the government is actually against them. So what I mean by that is, they don't, because their views and beliefs, they don't run in place there. It's mandatory that you serve in the military. So they don't want to serve in the military. So the government of Israel is secular, always trying to make laws to get these Jewish people to serve. And they spray these people because they don't get vaccinated. So some of the things they try to follow our Torah. And so you don't see that, but it's definitely the government is against the military. You'll see some of the military people and these people that are strictly religious, ultra Orthodox there. It's discouraging, man, because you tend to think that's Israel. No, it's the government, which is very secular. We know there's Eastern Europeans, but they're fighting against those that are the Jewish that are trying to keep, do their version of keeping it covered with all the paganism. Yeah. They're against those people very much.
Oh, wow. I thought they were locked in, but no, they're separated. Oh, okay.
Separated. Yeah, you don't tend to see they live in certain sections of the city, and the military got them cordoned off because these are like rejects or people that don't follow the rules, if you will. So that was very discouraging to see that life between how the Palestinians live versus reminiscent of how we've been in this nation, but it's the same situation, that apartheid, that oppression, that discrimination, and not even to speak about, the Ethiopian Jews and what they've experienced is coming into that country. Your video, Sean, I was watching a small bit of that, how they had to get accustomed to living, coming from a very rural area, coming in here, using knives and sports, getting gifts of, a knife and, kitchen, how to eat and using utensils when they were. So it's very different, man. So it was very discouraging how they would treat not only the Ethiopian Jews or the Palestinians, but then their own. But you don't see that much. You may get a glimpse of it if you pay attention a lot to the news, but you don't see that. But they really go against their own people. Yeah, so it's
Wow.
very
Wow.
discouraging.
Yeah, I
That was
saw
very
like,
discouraging.
about the military thing where they were trying to draft them and pull them in and they're fighting, but I
That's
didn't
fine.
realize it was because I thought they get like a government stipend not to work or something. I heard something about that, but I got to look, you got me interested to look back into that because you said the Hasidic. I know about them. What was the other groups you mentioned? You were back?
Ultra Orthodox, we call Haredi.
Haredi. Okay.
Yeah, and the Halani is the secular. That's the part. So I kind of learned about Haredi, the Dati, these different sects, Hasidic, like you probably would see in New York or somewhere like that.
Yeah,
So
that's the
these
only ones I really heard of. The other ones you educate me here, so
Alani.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. So yeah, these in ultra it's called the ultra orthodox. So those they're treated just like you're probably aware of. Yeah, it was very discouraging. Just like in
Mm.
America, man. Just like in America.
Oh, wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So
Yeah.
let's jump over into some of the slides here to see some of these
Okay.
visuals you got. That's
Okay.
very helpful. Let me share my screen here. All right, so maybe you can kind of talk through some of these.
Sure. This is probably our first day we went down to visit Brother Hashua and his family. We went to their home, and shortly after that, we went to this pizzeria here. We went to pizzeria in the local Tel Arad city downtown area, I guess you can call it. And yep, that's myself on the right there. Yep. And here, this is actually at Hashua's residence, right, where he's living there in Tel Arad. Man, he's just like you said. He's just a brother that's just down there, and he was just sitting there talking with us. Someone he
Hmm.
never knew. He's just talking like so. We're sitting there, and he's kind of explaining that. Yep, and this is back at the pizzeria.
Okay.
Just took a couple of pictures there. His children. Yep, that's him. Telling us, probably giving us some information with his little one in his arms there.
All right.
Yeah, this is at the actual Tel Arad National Park, I think they called it. And this is where all of his research he was defined. So that was called, was pointing there, was pointing at the Citadel. He said the Citadel Daud David. And this is what the whole purpose, he was just going to show us. I don't think they even expected us to be at the park because I think now that they've outlawed it, but at this time, he was able to take us and we didn't have to pay a fee, but he was just giving us the whole, the view and swell of the ground kind of giving us. So that's he and I pointing back to the area that we're very soon go and visit once we go up those steps there.
Yeah, I heard about that. That there was a big legal thing with him trying to get the rights to
Yeah,
use the park. Wow.
that's correct. Some political something going. So that's myself there, and obviously Brother House in the middle, Mario, and that's one of the guys. That's one of the one of the other two people that was visiting as well. Happened to be there when we were there. And this guy was
Oh.
actually saying, I'm not sure. He said he was going to retire. He was at retirement age. He was going to retire and stay in Israel. He took a one-way ticket and said, this is
Oh,
where he's going
wow.
to stay. Yeah, that's how excited he was about waking up and knowing who he was. And that brother, he was either going to stay there in Tel Arad or he was sent to Mona. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but that was one. He had a one-way ticket, man. He was just like, this is it. I'm done.
Wow. Is he the one you said from Canada?
No, the woman that
Oh,
we'll
okay.
see
So we'll
later,
see her
she's from
later.
Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure where he was from. That's how sure I think one of his sons, and then both of my sons in the picture as well. And that's
Okay.
at that location, Tel Arad National Park. Yes, so the one from Canada is the girl on the far right as you're looking at it. I'm sorry, the left. And my wife is right next to me with the hat, the
Okay.
bigger hat on. The girl with the red hat is the one from Canada. Happened to be another one of the visitors there that House Shul was entertaining with my family. The gentleman there that was retiring in the white, and then the girl with the red hat on. She was from Canada.
From Canada.
And she
Oh,
was there.
wow. I
She
wonder
was
how they
there
found it. Like, wow, how did they come across it?
it's interesting. She had I want to say her fiance. I want to say, I don't think they were married, but he was into it like I was, finding out who he was. And I think he was supposed to come on a trip, but anyway, she ended up coming on a trip. But she she wanted to come on a trip so she can come back and show him. Yeah, and I'm not sure again how he didn't come or something, but she was going to show him, hey, this is, so she knew that we are the people, and he was, he was telling her obviously, and she wanted to come, and she happened to be there by herself, but yeah, she was going to go back and share with him. but that's all of us, pretty much the visitors, my two boys, my family. But that's us with Hashua, and Hashua is just going to show us everything. And here it's just my wife and the one of the other persons, the girl from Canada, over there. And as you can see, they're at the base of those stairs. You park in that area right there, and then you go up the stairs, and that's the national park where you get to go in. And Hashua was showing us the citadel and all of. And he was reading this stuff pretty much, Brother Yeshua, out the Bible, and he was showing us. Here's where this is. This is what this is talking about, and it's very vague for me now, but as I understood at the time, it seemed like it could very well be possible. And that's a view of us coming up on that area. And he's saying this is the area where it's set high. So the Bible says it says high and for a lookout. And he was just showing us the terrain and how it sits from a distance. So you know it's raised. Yeah. Yeah, this was panoramic. Once we got to the top of those stairs, you get to the panoramic, and then it's all okay. They say this is still standing, and it's really ancient, like it's about to fall apart. But that depth there is what you're seeing. I'm just trying to get a panoramic view of standing on the top of that very hill that we saw, where it looks like it's set up. We're on the top of that, and before we descend down into the caverns there to look at the certain rooms, but that is a very top view of. Because you can see all around there. And so here's the Bible, here's the citadel, same thing there, just more of a panoramic, turning more to the right and just looking down into the valley.
Yeah, it's just seeing the lush green stuff here.
Yeah,
you know,
probably a farming area.
Yeah, they farming in the desert. It's like, what?
I hear it's very hard.
Like,
it's very hard to irrigate the water there. Indeed.
So, and also, there's a citadel there, but there's also like a tabernacle there. Is that the same thing? I get confused about that. Do you know?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay. See, I just went to the citadel.
Yeah, I hear it as a citadel, but it is something else that they call it too. Because they're saying this is where David got help to defeat the Jebusites or something, but it's very vague at this point.
Yeah, did she show you anything about like a Holy of Holies area or something like that? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was an area he had with I don't think we have it in here, the slides, but it was like the showbread. And
so that's the same. Okay, you did see both. Okay.
Yeah,
I was wondering.
And that's when he got back and we got into a little area where he was able to explain. That was the whole area that he's using the data to prove that this was the wall built around it, like you see there. He was saying this is the citadel and how they had to come in and the temple with the showbread, like you were saying, this is the area. So he's showing, I guess it's some artistic rendering of what that would have looked like in the days of antiquity. And you can see where the poles are there with the green and then the poles running. That was the low ground. And that's where David was supposed to get help to come up and defeat, to take out. I forget what the enemies were. I'm saying Jebusites.
Jebusites. I think
take out the Jebusites. So that's how he was able to conquer them. And he was showing this artistic rendering of what it would look like in days of antiquity. Yeah. That's more of him there explaining. And I don't recall exactly what, but that's more of him explaining because he's just got a lot of documents. He's got a lot of data to show what he was saying. He was bringing facts to back that up.
Yeah, we show this sometimes. It's I remember it's a synagogue that was built back in, I want to say the 400s or 500 AD, and it had black people up there because we show this a lot. So it's amazing to see that.
You can see that
as well. Wow. Let me see if I can click on this. Okay, there we go.
There we go. This is him actually giving his class, if you will.
Okay. Let me know if you can hear it when I play it, please.
Come over here. Come over here. Hey, sister, get this here.
Could you hear that? Oh, you can? Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Jubilee, bring him over here. They used to being over here. He's so used to being on the edge. Anyway, just Jubilee. Y'all come over here. Come over here.
Yo, you too. Move.
Right in this area over here.
Right here. Get off that cliff. Yeah.
Now what's happening, when you're looking right in front of you here, you see these two gates here?
Yes.
You want to get this in the video too, sister? Come on, swing around with your husband. You see these two gates right here? That's what you're looking at right there.
Right there. Those two lower bricks structures.
That's called mellow, remember?
Okay, yeah, that's
So
right.
you're looking
The
at mellow
irons,
right
the
there.
irons. Yes, the irons. Yep.
You're looking at those two structures, they call mellow. That's what you're learning
Okay.
from here. You know what I'm saying? What these things also called. Now here, this is the yard of the what? You see that?
Women's court.
The woman's court. Oh, you should have saw that. I'm surprised you didn't see that right away. So this here is the woman's court.
This area right here. Right
You follow
we
me?
get to the
So this is where the sisters be wailing at, right in here. You follow?
Yeah.
So you got
Big area right here.
4 chambers here. And that's the chamber over there. We're gonna walk into that chamber right here. I'm gonna show you what that chamber is. You're gonna see all of these things are on the side, but more importantly, this is the holy place, and you're gonna see where the ark and how the ark is set as we walk in. You follow me? Past these 2 gates. You okay? So what you're seeing here is right. It's all here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Y'all walk all the way in there? Let me
He
see.
went in there, brother Yasher. Yeah. Scorpions and all, man.
Oh, wow. Scorpion.
Yeah, you
Oh,
kids, you had to get the kids out the way because we saw a scorpion down in there.
wow. So this
Yeah.
must be at the beginning. Let's see.
Yeah,
What
it come down with the sand down in there. It's like cavern area. Got
wow.
cooler. It was very, very hot. It got cooler, but yeah, he go take you all down in there. And
Does he
he's
tell-
Mhm.
Do you remember what this sign said right here? Well, I'll play it, but I just
Yeah, I don't recall.
been a while. Okay. I was just wondering. I remember he showed.
What that say? The fortune of what?
From the time the kingdom of Yehuda.
That's what he called it.
So shouldn't the house of Judah be here? Why am I at fire? Where the house of Judah at? I can't get them past that street down there. Where the house of Judah at? Let me read that right there.
This square fortress, measuring 50 by 50 meters, 2.5 dunams, was constructed in the Iron Age too. It was built and destroyed 6 times over 350 years. Each time it stood for about 60 years. First fortress was fortified by casemate walls, while the 5 that followed were fortified with a solid wall. The entrance to the fortress was via a gate protected by 2 tall towers. The fortress is served as a military, commercial, and religious center and administration of the kingdom of Yehuda, beginning in the early 9th century BCE until its destruction in 586 BCE. Yep, second temple. A temple was active in the fortress in the 9th to 8th centuries BCE. Excavations revealed more than 100 ostraka inscriptions in ink on potsherds from the 9th to the 6th centuries BCE. They constitute the largest collection of Hebrew inscriptions found in Israel
So now-
in the first temple.
So now stop for a second. If America was destroyed right now, where would you find the most tax records? Where would you find the most records?
DC?
DC, the capital city. This was the capital. That's why you found the most writing
Administration.
that they've ever found throughout the whole land. Does that make any sense to you?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That is powerful. Wow. You got a lot of good stuff there. You got so wow. That's amazing.
I think he played a great part. Yeah, because I couldn't recall, but yeah, he was saying that was the kingdom of Judah right there.
Yeah.
The fort. Yeah.
Wow. Kingdom of Judah there.
He's got this notebook, man. He's just going through it, and he just
Going with
trying to-
old, not even like an iPad or nothing. He going through a notebook. Wow. That's amazing. Wow. Let's see. I think any other?
You know, at that time,
Oh,
I came.
I didn't know if there was anything else that might be of interest. This looks like the same. Oh, there's the Paleo Hebrew right
There's a
there.
paleo.
Oh, let's see what he's saying there. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Escape this. You hear what I'm saying? So that's a whole other story. That's the history of my family being taken to America,
Oh.
just like our father
This is something about America.
to the state of Israel and to
This
everybody.
family taking it from America. Wait a minute. Let me pull it back some. That's interesting.
Equivalent translation, word for word, of the ancient Hebrew Torah Bible scriptures into English, whose book at this present time is representing the state of Israel throughout the world for the purpose of bringing peace and security to the land.
You see, so that's basically, so in my demonstration of the knowledge of the ancient Hebrew language, I have proven to the state of Israel and to everybody else officially on an archaeological level, scholarly level, that we're the people. because we're the only one that's here reading it.
You want to say?
You see, that's where the book is. You follow me? So that was this was my demonstration. You see what I'm saying? Of who we were, and everybody was questioning, how did you, or who are you? I said, well, Frenchman. I said, if you're a Frenchman, you speak what? What, French? If you're German, you speak what? German. I said, well, if you're from the house of Israel and Obama, you should speak ancient Obama. You know what I'm saying? But how did you hold on to it? I mean, we thought we had you enslaved for 400 years. You know what I'm saying? How in the world did you escape this? You hear what I'm saying? So that's a whole other story. That's the history of my family being taken to America, just like our father Joseph was taken to Egypt before the rest of the family came. My father was also taken to America and preserved there before the rest of our tribe became slaves in the slave trade. So that's how we was able to preserve the language in America. And we were the last of the Israelites that was actually enslaved. You understand what I'm saying? And so that's why we were able to preserve onto the culture, the actual fringes, you know what I'm saying, and the actual language. So,
Wow, that's powerful. Talks about the language and everything else. Wow, you had a great experience, I see.
That was one of the highlights of it, Brother Yeshua. That was it right there. Just kind of go down and see. I seen the videos prior to that of this brother, but it was just to go down and see him on a first person basis and have him explain. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was a highlight, man. I gotta say, I was like, I'm gonna go back, but that there was one of the highlights.
Yeah, you make me now have to go back and look through some of your videos here. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So let me see. Let me go through some more of these pictures. All right, so the Dead Sea. So I just put some of these things because I saw the Dead Sea, so people can connect back to it. So in Ezekiel 47, 6 through 12, it says, he asked me, have you been watching, Son of Man? Then he led me back along the riverbank. When I returned, I was surprised by the sight of the many trees growing on both sides of the river. Then he said to me, this river flows east through the desert into the valley of the Dead Sea. The waters in this stream will make the salty waters of the Dead Sea fresh and pure. There will be swarms of living things wherever the water of this river flows. Fish will abound in the Dead Sea, for this water will become fresh. Life will flourish wherever this water flows. Fishermen will stand along the shores of the Dead Sea, all the way from En-Gedi to En-Eglaim. En-Gedi to En-Eglaim, I guess. The shores will be covered with the nets drying in the sun. Fish of every kind will fill the Dead Sea just as they fill the Mediterranean. So you went to the Dead Sea and the Mediterranean, or at least saw it, right?
Yes, both. Yes, yes, sir.
But the marshes and swarms will not be purified. They will still be salty. Fruit trees of all kinds will grow along both sides of the river. The rivers of these trees will never turn brown and fall, and they will always be fruit on their branches. There will be a new crop every month, for they are watered by the river flowing from the temple. The fruit will be for food and the leaves for healing. So
ain't that some prophecy?
That is something. So did you see the fruit and trees? Can I go get? No, I'm playing.
No fruit and trees. That prophecy we're waiting on, man, because you're gonna find the fresh water there.
No fresh water there now, huh?
No fruit, no sir. And so that's us, as we try to read, just as you're doing parts in the Bible and get out on our road trip and try to take pictures of the mentions in the Bible, these areas. So that Megalot Dead Sea, that was on our way there. It's like, let's snap this. So, and we would just read probably just what you posted, going to Ezekiel and try to read that and say, okay, let's snap this, trying to, make a route of how we were going versus what was in the Bible. Very exciting.
Okay. Let me go to the next one.
Yes, that's man, I remember being so hot. They
look like they're hot. They're like, oh,
I'm ready to go. Let's get out of the car. Yeah, it was probably 90, but that man, it's something with that humidity there in that Northeast Africa region, that humidity. So we got out the car and was like, let's take a picture on this rock. And so that's the Dead Sea. We just got out right there, started taking a picture right there. You can see the
wow.
faces. You're just like, dang.
Yeah. They're like, it is hot. I've been out here 5 seconds. I'm about to melt.
That's right. I'm like, no, y'all gonna appreciate this when y'all become adults. You say you're gonna appreciate this.
That's
So
right. That's right.
yeah.
Experience that I wish I had. Wow.
And that's just that same rock, but we're looking at it. You see it, you know, how that thing, as far as you can see, in the haze that's over there. But that's amazing, man. That water is very salty. You can float in it. We were getting at one point. We don't think you're having the picture. We got out and we started floating in it because just as Father said, was that's going to be, you know, that's going to turn to fresh water. But right now, there's nothing in it. It's dead, right? That's why they call it death. It's just dead.
Oh, wow. Wow. You know what? Now I think about it, I do remember seeing something about they were talking about some fish in this recently. About, you know how they have talking about end time prophecies being fulfilled? And I remember they were talking about some fish in the Dead Sea or something. So got to go back and look at that. Now you got me interested again. So
Go look at
got to
that.
go back and look at that.
Yes, sir. And that was just a pier, and we got out. We just let's walk. You can walk, I don't know, so many feet out on that little bridge, mechanical pier there. But that was just us trying to take it all in, man.
Oh yeah, I got the rocks and stuff happening.
Yeah, that's a side shot from that little barge or whatever that goes out into the water, 20, 30 feet. Yep, that's from a distance, just seeing that same area, the Dead Sea, just seeing it from a distance.
Oh wow.
Now this is the Mediterranean. This is going back into.
Oh, okay. I might have skipped over that.
Yeah, probably from the hotel, just looking down into the Mediterranean. Dead Sea. You know, it's really arid, and you got a little tropical things. You have a lot of marsh or grass, and outside of that, it's pretty barren.
Wow, where were y'all when you took that?
That was the same Dead Sea. And I don't know how I got that shot. I must.
I was like, wow, that looked like an aerial shot almost.
Yeah, like we were up in high, but we didn't go anywhere high. I must have just raised it. I don't know. Some of that same, just so you see that how barren it is. And I love it, Brother Yeshua, because I think of the Bible and how the Most High say the Creator did everything where the sea don't go past his boundaries. He know exactly where to stop.
Right. Yeah. Were y'all out in the water here? Or just from the other side?
I doubt it.
Okay.
Probably
I didn't know if it
was
was a boat
on
or something.
Yeah, probably was not even a boat, probably just on maybe that barge or that extension that went out. I'm not sure.
Okay.
My little one, my youngest, with one of the Israeli soldiers.
They just walk around with these guns like nothing like here in America.
Man,
they're ready to go to war.
The heightened state, brother, actually they live in, man, it's gotta be. Oh man, I couldn't even imagine it, but they're like that everywhere you go, and you know, children are seeing that. So I had to make it like friendly for my youngest. When I was like, yeah, it's just kind of like, and you know, it's just kind of like there's a heightened state of war that's perpetually happening here between you know, Palestinian Jews. That's on the balcony of the flat, one of the flats in Jerusalem that we were staying. Very nice flat.
I see the flag right there.
The background, I want to say somewhere we were out just taking a picture somewhere. I don't know how it is. Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about, floating?
Pardon me?
Is that whether you said you were floating in the Dead Sea or somewhere? Is this
No, that's actually Jerusalem.
Okay.
That's the Mediterranean, the beach as they call it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's us back at one. We stayed in there in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Same.
Do you know what this is? You know what this is?
I want to say it's down in Jaffa, just south of Tel Aviv, because we never did go. Yeah, we didn't go to Gaza Strip or I want to say that's Jaffa. Got like I want to say a lighthouse or something down there.
That close.
That's That's at the one in the I won't say Jerusalem Flats. Yeah. Capernaum.
So it's another place in the Bible,
Yes,
Matthew
sir.
11:23, and you, Capernaum, will not be exalted to heaven, will you? You will descend to Hades, for if the miracles had occurred in Sodom, which occurred in you, it would have remained to this day. Nevertheless, I say to you that it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom in the day of judgment than for you. Wow,
Mm.
that's
Yep, that was
interesting.
just what you're doing. We tried to capture that. And so let's take Capernaum. Let's take a picture of this. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, they got like
read
a
the
church,
scripture.
and I don't know what that could have been, but that's
Yeah, I don't
interesting.
know. Look like it's some that peeled a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Church of the Promise of the Eucharist, front of the town of Yahusha.
Hmm.
Okay, so we got Nazareth. So,
Yes, Nazareth.
so Joseph got up and returned to the land of Israel with Yahusha and his mother. But when he learned that the new ruler of Judea, was Herod's son Archelaus, he was afraid to go there. Then, after being warned in a dream, he left the region of Galilee. So the family went and lived in a town called Nazareth. This fulfilled what the prophets had said. He will be called the Nazarene. So we're right to the hometown of Yahusha. Wow.
Yes, sir. That was one of the things I had to go to
Oh
there.
yeah, gotta see what he was walk through there. Yeah.
So that's kind of like everything is kind of built high and it's like cliff and line. And that's
Hmm.
a picture of Nazareth from like a little road that was on the side. We actually got out, pulled in over to the side. This probably was not dangerous. I mean, it probably was dangerous enough. But I got out and I was able to catch a picture of all of Nazareth. So that's kind of like looking down in Nazareth from that little road.
Hmm. Because they
Yes.
always talking about earthquakes and stuff, so it's just amazing to see so many tall buildings being built up like that. But I guess you're
Mhm.
limited in space or something. But they got a lot of, well, I guess a lot of hills, so it's kind of hard to build
A
in some
lot of
areas.
hills, a
Yeah.
lot of it's dilapidated, or some of the buildings are destroyed. But it's you got to probably get more in the city to see it. But that's
Oh,
just an
okay.
area. Probably somewhere in Tel Aviv, where boys is just in a park. Want to get that with the
Wow.
sun, the sun setting.
It's a
I
nice
don't
picture.
know. Yeah, I don't know where that was. I want to say Jerusalem, but I'm not sure.
It's a nice picture.
Thank
So
you.
this is the Sermon on the Mount. So
Yes,
this
Sermon
is
on the Mount, the Attitudes.
the attitudes. So this is that area, right? You were saying?
Yes, sir. We just made a point to get out and say, "Oh, this is the Beatitudes. Let's get out." That's a fruit, a vineyard, not a vineyard, but that's I think a peach tree or some kind of fruit
Mm.
tree. So we're ready to get out and just kind of get a shot of that. And we probably read this very same uh, scripture here in Matthew 1 through 12, where it talks about Yahushua teaching right there in the Beatitudes or the Sermon on the Mount.
That's amazing because most kids grow up here in America, just hearing the scriptures, and they go to college and they try to teach them none of that stuff is real. But your children are learning on spot where this stuff is happening.
That was the
That's
purpose,
great.
brother. Yeah, sure.
That's
Yep.
great.
Firsthand. I wanted you to see it so it'd be
Firsthand.
indelible. That's Nazareth again. That was like one of the little areas you pull off. We didn't get to really drive in it much because I was you be honest, the traffic signs kind of yep. So I was able to get a lot of aerial shots from this raised area, just to kind of
Hmm.
give you a picture of Nazareth where Yahushua grew up, dwelled. Maybe I saw a lot of green and I was like, let me take a picture.
Yeah. Well, you got the back. I guess you're going. I think you look like you're going to what, Jerusalem, Old City, or something, maybe.
Ah man,
Just
I
guessing.
don't I don't
Okay.
recall. Yeah. That's Tel Aviv. You see the boats there and docked in the piers, and that's the beach. That's the coast. So you got Tel Aviv, and then the Mediterranean Sea just sits right there.
Oh, was that the little thing? No, that wasn't the little thing. Sorry, I remember
It was
seeing something.
yeah, I want to
Okay.
say it was in Yafa, and that's just an art, like an art piece. Right before you get to the old city, right? We're in Jerusalem. We're about to go to the old city, and that was just an art piece. They want to stop and just, I guess, pose on this. Yeah.
And they had some fun.
Yeah, it's out some mall. Yeah, it's in the mall. and wanted to have some fun, kids. And so we stopped
Uh-huh.
that sliding out through the just on the streets of Jerusalem, and that's taking a picture with one of the female soldiers.
That's the thing that kind of blew my mind because the fact that even the women fight in the military there, right?
Oh
It's like,
man,
what?
they
That's
all
a,
gotta serve.
everybody got to
Yeah,
serve. So
that's
that's a
it.
whole total different than here. I don't know how women would feel about that, but yeah, there
Yeah, it has to be a
that's for
hard
sure.
sell. Yeah, it'd be a
Yeah,
hard sell.
yeah.
Oh, and I just want to point. I just happened to get it. So we were going to go on a tour, and again, I wanted to go off the beaten path. So I paid this guy, this Palestinian guy, because they're at the wall, right? They're at the wall. They see you're a tourist, and what's funny, brother? Actually, they think you're rich. They think all the Americans are rich. Yeah, man, it was an interesting story. On the way back, he wouldn't, because we didn't tip him enough. I don't believe, because we paid quite a bit for him to just be our personal tourist, if you will, take us to the Palestinian area to see the old Christian Coptic churches, what have you. And this is the sign that was just sitting there. This road leads to an area under the Palestinian Authority. The entrance for Israeli citizens is forbidden. So it's a danger for your life. So basically, this was one of those discouraging things. You see it, right? And they just right there telling their citizens, don't go over here. And then I started to have a little bit of pause when I saw that, because I'm like, gosh, but again, I was over there in that conflict in the early 90s. So for me, I just thought with my family it was a bit dangerous. So I was very alarmed when I saw that. But these is Arabic, Hebrew, and English, they got it. I'm like, gosh, are we supposed to be doing? But the guy was, he did his job, took us over, let us see it. But he wanted to get tipped a lot more. So on the way back, but he turned off the air conditioning because he felt like tipped enough. So he turned off the air. Okay. He felt like he didn't get what he. Yeah, so I think that was, man, that sticks out in my mind. But he was nice the whole time. But when he didn't get enough shekels, man, on the way back, he just flipped off the AC, hot as it was.
It was like, you're not getting the platinum. Platinum includes air conditioning. You got the bronze, right?
You got the bronze.
You got the bronze. No air conditioning.
He gave us the bronze. Yeah, I'm like, oh man, that's okay, whatever. But yeah, that sticks out in my mind. Maybe that was on the way there, just driving on, on the way to looking back. Maybe I see the nice intact buildings. It's probably looking back in the Israel area because the Palestinian areas are markedly different. So this is, once we got there, this is one of the, I want to say the old Christian, they got a name for this, old Eucharist, Christ of the Risen Church or something. You can see all these ancient, very ancient church. I don't see how those guys was in suits, because it was scorching.
Oh, it was. Wow. They make it look like it wasn't a big deal. Yeah.
I don't know how
your wife look like it's a little hot. Your wife looks like it's hot there. But
they made her, we had to buy her that shawl, that red and white shawl that's on her shoulder. You had to buy that because she couldn't go with her shoulders showing. So we had to buy that so she can cover up. Yeah. Yeah, she's not, it's hot. It's hot.
Yeah, on top of it, having the shawl too.
Yeah, on top of having that shawl, it's hot.
Yeah, little man couldn't take it no more.
No, he's gone. She probably couldn't take it no more, but she had to cover up, right? So she probably didn't like that leg of the trip. And he just slept the whole time.
That was too much. Yeah.
Too much.
Big man looked like he holding on, looked like he tried.
he hold it in there. Man, he laying on me and it's hot, right? I'm just like, you gotta wake up. And so that's us coming out of a door there, like one of the doors in this old church, but you got to go in it. It's not like a regular door.
That's how you down almost. Yeah, really got to squeeze up in there. Wow.
Oh man, that was, it says a lot of us look third worlders, and that's probably over there somewhere. I don't remember where that was exactly.
Yeah, but I wonder if that's the same area.
And that's Jerusalem. As you can see, some of the buildings, man, the architecture is really, got that ancient look with a lot of the stones, right? A lot. We're talking stones. A lot of these places were built, flats, apartments, what have you, all made of that same finish or architect, that stone.
I see the security cam like you were talking to.
But yeah, everything's eye in the sky, man. They watching everything. So I'm like, how did they know we stopped in this spot? Just came out of nowhere. It's probably just looking back in the old city of David there, Daud or whatever, looking back and just looking at some of the old churches, Christian Coptic churches.
Let's see up on the
And
hill.
that was probably in Jerusalem looking back, and you just see it kind of sits, a lot of it sits on the hill. A lot of that stuff is a hilly, rocky area. Very desolate. Old city there, sitting in some area in this old city of David.
That's what just reminds me of that video. There's a video that talks about, I don't know if you heard of Stephen Graham, but he
No.
has a thing with Hashua where they go and he shows like the different places. He does documentaries, and I think this is the little thing that says something about Suleiman, the Turk, that actually built. It actually says something in Arabic about the wall or something, or maybe it's just something, some kind of connection to it. So.
That buried seal that you're seeing there?
Yeah,
Okay.
this looks like I remember them going around the different walls and just showing people like this is a symbol that is based on the Turkish Suleiman and not Solomon, as in from the tribe of Judah that built this area.
Gotcha. Turkish Suleiman. Okay.
Yeah,
Turkish.
so it's
Okay.
interesting. Now I'll send you that video as well if you're interested.
Yeah, indeed. That's Tel Aviv. Just looking back. Yep, just looking back away from the Mediterranean into the actual city. It's a lot of buildings, man. And it's like I said, it's dirty. It's dirty there. But that place has been through war. It's always a heightened state of, bombs going off. I remember even I was there in the early 90s. I mean, that place was ravaged. So a lot of that had been rebuilt. Even though a Scud missile didn't hit it directly from Iraq, right, Saddam, it was a lot of the debris that would come down. Alarm would go off of a city, man. It would just tear up a lot of that. So a whole lot of that has definitely been rebuilt from like 27 years ago at the time when I visited here.
I know there's been some cities hit here recently with the recent conflict that they actually were sending missiles over there and getting past the Iron Dome. And,
Iran, shooting up an Iron Dome. Interesting, because then they didn't have the Iron Dome, so I was with a Patriot Missile Air Defense Artillery Group. So that was the air defense that they were employing. That old thing is still employed to this day. Yeah, it's called the Patriot Missile. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Reagan. Reagan was talking about Patriot Missile. I remember that way back when. Yeah.
It was kids probably, and then they come back and they got their own Iron Dome that they use now.
No telling what they got with AI and all the craziness they got now. I don't know what lasers and whatever. I don't know what they might have. Crazy.
That's just a shot of the Mediterranean from the hotel that we were in there.
Okay. Yeah, this is a little lizard thing.
That story here, Brother Yesher. So my youngest son, he's in Hoshua's yard, and he was out there with that hole there, and he actually hit this lizard and killed it. And I want to say, I took a picture of it because shortly after that, he got on Hoshua had a hammock. So he tried to get on a hammock after that and tried to lay in it, and he missed it. And man, fell over and busted his chin. His chin open. And he's got that mark to this day. And what I tell him is, I said, you will always remember your trip to Israel, because that very thing, after you hold that lizard there, you fell off the hammock and bust open your chin. And he's got that mark, even though it's been 8 years later, 9 years later, he's still got that mark. So he'll always remember his trip by holding that lizard and splitting his chin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the story with that.
That's the last one.
All righty.
So, wow, great trip. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was really helpful for us to actually get some vision, because some of us never be able to go over there. Sad to say, but when people share their experience and be able to do that, and especially the knowledge that you have from our perspective, it really helps us. So I thank you for the time that you actually came and shared. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything else, or even advice or any wisdom you want to give us? Please feel free to do so.
I would just say, first of all, I want to thank the Creator, Most High, Yahuwah, for giving us an opportunity. I really appreciate it. I've since subscribed to your channel. I'm going to be watching some of the material you put out. Very interesting, good scholarship, good research. So, and again, I thank you for having me. Just meet someone in the chat, and I'll say, I happen to be there. So I appreciate it. I just like to, any way I can edify and help our people, whoever that may help. I'm praying that it looks like it was just a general thing, but we tried to put some educational, which is what I went over there for, which is the educational piece. Wasn't to highlights. I'm very introverted, but wanted to come on here and just edify the body. And I wish and pray that when the time comes, Most High will pull all of us into our land eventually and pull us to where we need to be. And I'm looking forward to that. And then in the meantime, I just want to say, keep learning. When I was over there 27 years ago, Brother Yesher, it was like, had I known what I know now, it would have been much more. But now, at that time, 27 years later, you just kind of recounting. And like I said, the Most High has a way. He brought 2 or 3 servants. Here I am as a military serviceman fighting in their land for who I thought were the people. And I'm not discounting anyone. I don't want to be like that. But at the same time, we weren't included in that conversation. And I think that we are as well, very well. And I knew Beta Israel. I knew about that group at that time, but we were just left out of it, right? It's just like, yeah, we've been slaves. So it was very enlightening into now where we are now with the Most High moving this prophecy through, and we know who we are. So that helped awakens us up and said it is possible that we can go there. I've seen some of the places, though it may be the location, though it may not. But the fact is, I just wish, looking forward to the day when he pull us in our land where, like that hiding state, they said this is what that Balfour Declaration, this is supposed to be the land. If he pulled his big, well, it's anything but that. As you saw the sign, it's a lot of war, a hiding state of walk around with the weapons all the time, a very heightened state of alert, and everyone fears for their life there. So you got to post these things and put up warnings. And we know that's not, when he put us in the kingdom back in our land, that's not what it's going to be. So prophecy, some of those things you asked me about, what made me know, these things that further delve into how we know this biblical prophecy is true, that people that were involved in the slave trade, those are the children of Israel. And one day we'll be back in our land. I just want to leave with that, brother. And I appreciate you again. Hopefully we can, communicate and work together on something later. But
oh yeah. I was thinking something already moving. So I was thinking about reaching out to Joshua, and maybe we could have a part 2 or something with him up here or something. If he's willing to be a part, it might be like a reunion.
praise Yah.
Yeah,
Praise
so
Yah.
anything.
That's
Yeah,
it.
there's other people out there, and until we, especially as labeled as African Americans in the past, we have a lot of us have limits with finances and stuff. So this is just wonderful to give people a chance to go and visit, even though they've never been there. Haven't left their computer or cell phone at this time to actually see it. They still feel like they've been there, and hear your experience is also very helpful. So yeah, most definitely. I really do appreciate your time and you reaching out, and that's what Mamleket Kohanim is all about. We're a kingdom, priests. It's not just an organization, it's who we are as a people. So I thank you for doing so, sitting in the chat and bringing us together. Speaking of the chat. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank y'all also for everyone who actually watched and going through this. I know a lot of people have been getting a lot of good feedback about the videos and hearing some of the experience. So, here's another great one that I hope you take advantage of and be able to hear about as well. And you said also that you fellowship somewhere, is that all right if you share that just in case people?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I've sent you the information. Yeah, I fellowship with a group in CCI out in Charlotte. I think it's actually Matthews, but I'm not from that area, so I don't know what it's Matthews, but
all the same. Yeah.
Okay, it's called. It's with the Moreh Arieh Ben Nasik. Is a brother that's pretty much like your channel, very much into the scholarship and using the data, improving things. So we need to start how we prove things. That was a lot of my reluctance before, when I kind of knew we were, but I couldn't prove it. So I'm walking in King Super's Israeli lady says, Jewish lady goes, because they got on Hilltop, I live right near me where I am. And she goes, why do you got that on? Because I had on one of my military, memorabilia from my time when I served in Israel. It was just a military jacket. And she acted like she was just surprised that I was wearing this Israeli flag on my shirt, I believe it was. I had an Ethiopian, I had an Eritrea, and then I had an Israeli flag on it, in my lapel. And she asked, but I was afraid to really stick up for that we the people, right? And it wasn't being confrontational. It was just to say, I couldn't say, oh yeah, I'm an Hebrew Israelite. I'm an Israelite, an ancient. As I told a guy on the plane on this trip, I was told confident, come over to me with these phylacteries. And he said, could I pray for you? And why are you going to Israel? I said, because I'm an ancient Israelite. You know, I'm a descendant of an ancient Israelite. And brother, you should have seen the look on his face. But those were the things, knowing, educating. Hopefully our youth will already know this. And when they come in this age we get, you will know. But that's the reluctance I had. But when I was able to prove it with the Bible and having the data, to verify data, now it's irrefutable. You cannot not prove it. So as that confidence built up and I was able to show and prove with facts that's irrefutable, then that's hopefully, like I said, our offspring will be more, as we raise them the way they should be, the Torah and learning about in the faith of Yahshua, learning about, they will be much more strengthened too. You know, but it was early in the walk, but once you start walking more into it, man, the Most High just reveals it to you, and no one can tell you otherwise.
Yeah, especially having experiences and stuff as well. And that's just, how he walked with you when you were in the military and had you to go back there. It just shows you how he has that connection to us. Yeah. What he's doing is just amazing. Really it is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being part of this. And once again, thank you for all those who are watching this. And we pray that Most High continues to be with us and give us more of these great interviews for us to share to the four corners as we move to his kingdom. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Right.
Praise Yah.